Castle Campbell sits in one of the most spectacular settings in Scotland, overlooking the town of Dollar in Clackmannanshire. It was once the ancient seat of the Argyll family, but is most noted for being called Castle Gloom by one of the daughters of an ancient Scottish king. According to legend, the princess was forced to live there for a time, and she loathed it. She named the two burns nearby Sorrow and Care, and the lands beyond in the valley Dolor, which means sadness. The oldest part of the castle is the main tower. It dates from the 15th century. A wooden structure is mentioned in 1466 in a papal bull, condemning the burning of the tower in 1463 by Walter Stewart, following the murder of John Stewart of Lorne. A charter dated April 1465 stated the owner was still John Stewart. It passed into the hands of the Campbell family following the marriage of Isabella, the eldest daughter of Stewart and heiress to the lands, to Colin Campbell, 1st Earl of Argyll. The tower house, which stands at 60 feet to the parapet, was repaired by the couple. 3 of the 4 stories are vaulted, with the topmost one having 2 grotesque masks carved into the stone. The tower has an inner and outer casing of ashlar, with a core of whinstone rubble, and there are 2 entrances. The first is on the west wall, and was originally at ground level, although was lowered to allow the construction of the courtyard. The other is in the south-facing wall, and is at first floor level. Originally it had a forestair, but this was removed around the beginning of the 17th century to make way for a new turnpike. In 1489, James III's Parliament passed an Act at the request of Campbell to officially rename it Castle Campbell, as it had been known as Castle Gloum or Gloom until then. It remained in the family for over 300 years and was their stronghold in the lowlands. It also became their principal residence. The wealthy Campbells extended the house by adding more living accommodation, a large courtyard and an outer garden entered by a vaulted passage. Around 1500, a 3-storey rubble-built south range of principal apartments with a corbelled parapet was added, with south-facing windows above a row of cellars. An octagonal stair tower to the west and a square tower to the east led up to an upper floor, possibly the grand hall. A grand fireplace was set into the east wall. In the north wall was a buffet. The 3-storey east range of Castle Campbell was built around 1600 and faced a screen wall to protect the inhabitants. Among the visitors to the castle was Mary Queen of Scots. Born on 8th December 1542 at Linlithgow Palace, she was the daughter of James V and Marie of Guise. When she was just 6 days old, she became queen, following the death of her father, and was crowned at Stirling on 9 September 1543. Until the age of 5, she was moved around for safety reasons, before being shipped to France, where she spent the next 13 years at the French court, waiting to be married to Francois, the Dauphin, later Francois II. Married on 28 April 1558, the young couple became King and Queen of France the following year. A year later, Francois died, and Charles, Francois's brother, became king, so Mary returned to Scotland. Being a Catholic, her Scottish subjects were suspicious of her. John Knox, who visited Castle Campbell and preached there in 1556, openly spoke out against her, and many in her Privy Council were Protestant. That notwithstanding, she tolerated this new form of religion, but maintained her own faith. One of these was the outspoken 5th Earl of Argyll, Archibald Campbell, owner of Castle Campbell, who was responsible for the establishment of Protestantism as the main form of worship in Scotland. Religion was put aside in 1563, when Mary was invited to the castle for a wedding, as Lady Jean Stewart, wife of Campbell, was her half-sister and one of her closest confidants. Campbell's half-sister, Margaret, was engaged to James Stewart, 2nd Lord Doon, and the marriage took place, with Mary as guest of honour, staying between the 9th and 12th of January, 1563. She took an active part in the festivities, including the banquets and masques. However, it wasn't a happy trip for her. Shortly afterwards, she was consigned to her bed, suffering from pyrexia, vomiting and abdominal pains, following her evil journey at Castle Campbell. This is thought to have been hereditary, as some of her descendants also suffered from this. This was not Mary's only connection with the castle. Following her betrothal to Henry Stewart, Lord Darnley, a plot was hatched by her half-brother James Stewart, 1st Earl of Murray, and Campbell, to intercept Darnley at Kinross on his way from Perth, and to take him to the castle, then hand him and his father, Matthew Stewart, the Earl of Lennox, over to the English. A local laird discovered the plot and warned the Queen. The plot was foiled. With the family's Christian leanings now firmly Protestant, the Marquess of Argyll was beheaded for treason in 1661, during the restoration of the Catholic Charles II, and the castle was abandoned 2 years later. Before this, the army of Montrose marched through the area during the Civil War, with the Macleans burning it to the ground, along with local people's homes in Muckert and Dollar. It was attacked again in 1654, when it was a Covenanter stronghold, and burned to prevent Cromwell's English troops from using it as a garrison. However, it was briefly used as a garrison for a small number of soldiers during the 1715 Jacobite uprising. By the time George Campbell, 6th Duke of Argyll, sold the buildings and land in 1806 to Crawford Tate of Harveston, it had fallen into disrepair. John Taylor and his wife and family moved into the castle around 1848, where they lived in 2 rooms at the foot of the stair, and it was later occupied by a cobbler who sold drinks to anyone who came to see the castle. For many years the building was in the possession of the Globe Insurance Company, until 1859, when Sir Andrew Orr purchased it. In the 1870s, James Orr, who inherited it following his brother's death in 1874, carried out repairs, with the living accommodation greatly improved, and the Knox pulpit in the garden rebuilt. A footpath was opened to it on 26 May 1865 at a cost of £300, all raised by public subscription by the people of Dollar. As time passed, the bridges deteriorated and became dangerous and impassable. In 1948, the National Trust for Scotland took over the upkeep of Dollar Glen, while the castle was passed to the Ministry of Works in 1950 by the Glen and castle's late owner, John Ernest Kerr of Harveston. Through public subscription and government grants, The castle and glen were restored that same year, and public access was allowed once more. Today, Castle Campbell is in the care of Historic Environment Scotland and was Category A listed on 9th June 1960, although this was removed in December 2015. It's a scheduled ancient monument and is open to the public all year round. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.